Tú conocerás hoy a la Vtuber Cool 149. Esta puertorriqueña, criada en Estados Unidos, es diseñadora de vestuario para películas y televisión. Hablaremos sobre su hermoso y peculiar diseño, su personalidad y sobre su trabajo, porque no todos los días hablamos con alguien que trabaja en la industria del cine. Y como de costumbre, ahí van las preguntas clichés. ¿Cuándo comenzaste a ser Vtuber?
Bienvenidos! Come on in. It's nice to meet you. I started VTubing in the spring of 2022. I started as a cutie pie little P&G kind of gal. And then around September, I got my first 3D model. It was a Vroid. And then just this past spring, in May, we had a big Dyna grand reopening. And I debuted my new classy chassis, as you can see here.
¿Cuál es la historia de tu personaje?
I'm a 1950s Dyna waitress VTuber who got sucked into a TV one day when I was working late at the Dyna, and there was a bad electrical storm, and for some reason the Fritz TV transported me to the future, and so now I'm here in 2023. So I'm a 20th century girl living in a 21st century world. So I'm very grateful to be here.
¿Por qué escogiste el nombre de Lala?
My name is actually my nickname outside of the Dyna, as I like to say. Lala is a name that I've been familiar with for a long time in my life. So it felt very natural. I'm not as creative when it comes to naming stuff, unfortunately.
Tienes un hermoso modelo 3D. ¿Puedes contarnos cómo fue ese proceso?
When I was first coming up with my concept in terms of what kind of character I wanted to be within the VTubing community, I had to really think about what I'm passionate about. Outside of the Dyna, I'm a costume designer in film and television, and I have a passion for fashion, especially vintage fashion. And I thought, well, all right, I like vintage things. And I noticed that Twitch really is, you come and hang out in somebody's stream, and you got regulars talking and gabbing, and it's a place you go to that you feel comfy, kind of like a neighborhood watering hole. And it kind of all came together. I was like, well, being a diner waitress makes sense. You get to know a gal, she gets to know your regular order. You got somewhere you can go to regularly. You can air your grievances, your troubles, and you have a nice time to kind of relax and unwind. In terms of reaching out, I'm Puerto Rican, New York. I'm New Yorican. And I like to talk with my hands. I'm a very expressive person. And so I knew that I wanted to do 3D modeling. And I knew that the vibe that I wanted, I'm 1950s Americana all the way, baby. So I knew that I had to look for somebody that understood the style I was going for, as well as that could kind of bring that to life. And then that's how I found Kami Mamoru on Twitter. And I felt like she was the perfect fit for me because it wasn't totally anime and it wasn't fully Western. It was a nice in between. And so they really helped me in terms of I had a lot of ideas. Like I said, I do costume design. So I had a lot of strong opinions in terms of how I knew the character was going to go. But Kami really helped me refine them and articulate them. And then I found Mads Okuda around the same time, which was in the fall of 2021. And I started talking to them. And then I applied to be, to have a 3D model, but, that takes time and it's very pricey. So I wanted to take the time to save up the money for it. And so I applied and got into the wait list in the spring of 2022. Right when I started VTubing as a PNG is right when I got into Maz's wait list. And that's how it kind of happened. And then, time passed by and I saved up money, and then here you go. And then this is how I am. So there you go.
Bien, soy de Puerto Rico. Si naciste ahí, ¿en qué pueblo te criaste? ¿O de qué pueblo es tu familia?
Sí, soy boricua. Nací en Nueva York, pero mi familia es de Puerto Rico. Mi familia es de Isabela, Río Piedras y Isla Verde. Necesito practicar mi español más, pero, I get by, as you say.
Nada mejor que un buen día de playa en Isabela. Vi que trabajas en la industria del cine. Definitivamente no te topas con alguien que trabaje en esa área todos los días. ¿Qué sería lo más que te gusta y lo más que odias de trabajar en esa industria?
I work in the film industry. I work as a costume designer for films and television, primarily in feature films. That's really where I get my bread and butter. I love what I do. I love the ability to bring characters to life. My job is basically live action character design. I use fabrics, fashion, color, texture to really evoke the personality of a character and showcase it within the costume that they wear. So I've gotten to work with a lot of really cool people, and I've gotten to work on some really neat production. I think the thing that I dislike the most about it, though, is that it's real demanding. I think people don't really know that about the behind the scenes of the film industry or entertainment in general. You got a lot of people that work really hard to bring your favorite stories to life. And it's very demanding. You're talking about very long work days, averaging from 12 to 14 hours a day when you're on a production, 5 days a week. Sometimes work crazy hours. Sometimes you don't got enough time to rest and take care of yourself. So yeah, so that's probably the thing I like the least. But something that keeps me going is that I feel very lucky to be able to work on some really, really awesome stories, and that I get to continue to do so. And so working within VTubing and film, it feels very tied because VTubing is very creative for me. And I get to channel a lot of creativity that maybe I don't get to do in my main line of work. And I get to do it here in the diner, which is really a joy. I'm really appreciative, really.
¿Cuál es tu rutina mañanera? Ser parte de un trabajo tan exigente y ser VTuber con un itinerario no debe ser nada fácil.
A morning just ain't working right if I don't got a cup of coffee in my hand. Something about having a nice cup of joe that has some milk and sugar, that really gets my day going right. So I get a cup of coffee usually after I wake up. And nowadays, when I'm doing a lot of VTubing work, I sit down, I usually have a list written out, or I take time to write my list, especially I got ADHD. So if I don't got my roadmap, then I'm set up for disaster right off the bat. But yeah, I usually spend time going over my calendar to make sure that things are looking good within the next few weeks. I spend time answering emails or answering messages, whether that's on Twitter or Discord or actually via email. And usually I'm working on some long-term projects. So I'm coordinating with artists, or I'm talking to pals in terms of some goals I have. I'm investigating new tech, researching or finicking some stuff, but most of the time I'm actually editing, because that's what I'm able to do. So I'm editing things to put on YouTube or to TikTok, to put on Twitter, all in terms of getting me out there. I'm an independent business lady. How are people gonna know to eat at my joint if I don't put the word out there in the street? That's usually what my day is like. And then I like to decompress by either cooking food for myself or for my dear husband, Dan, and then by playing some video games to decompress. Usually games that I don't stream, like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, or I like to play Magic the Gathering a lot too. Those are some of my favorite games that I use to decompress. And Genshin Impact. Yeah, that one too.
Todos tenemos algo a lo que le tenemos miedo. ¿A qué le temes? ¿Y te ha pasado algo vergonzoso con eso?
Oh my God. Something I'm afraid of? Look at that, Jess. Oh my God. Roaches? Are you kidding me?
Those hacking fellas. Oh my God.
I remember this one time. So, I spent all my summers growing up in Puerto Rico, right? I spent a lot of time with my grandparents on the island. My maternal grandparents lived in Isla Verde growing up, and my paternal grandparents lived in Rio Piedras. And so I spent a lot of my summers with my cousins and my siblings. I remember it was so humid. We had a couple of dogs, street dogs, that my grandparents, we love dogs. My grandparents had the water bowls in this like shack that they had put together for the dogs. And I guess that it's the summer, it's humid, it's hot. Went in there to kind of give the dogs a snack. And there was a big water bug. Big roach. Almost like Fallout level, you know what I'm saying? Like these big ass roaches. And my grandfather, and specifically, we called him Papa. Papa comes in there and he's like, "What are you so afraid of?" I was like, "There's a roach. Are you kidding me? I'm not gonna go in there. I'm not gonna be feeding no dog no snack. I am not gonna do that." And he was like, "What are you so afraid of?" I was like, "The roach, obviously." And he was like, "Well, you're afraid of this?" And so he picks it up. He picked up the roach. And so its little legs going like this. Looking at me, its little legs moving about. And I was like, oh my God, it's either gonna fly towards me or whatever it is. He picked it up and he was like, "The only way you conquer fear is fear yourself." Something like that. He flings the roach towards me. And so I'm seeing it slow motion come towards me. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs because literally my worst nightmare achieved. And out of nowhere, Schnauzzy, who is a Schnauzer that was one of the dogs, jumps out of nowhere and goes, "Hump," and ate it in midair, came out and snatched in the midair. I looked at the dog, its one little roach leg sticking out of its mouth, and I was like, I was both horrified and especially grateful for Schnauzy. Schnauzy was my family dog that looked after me ever since I was a little baby. Schnauzy, I'm convinced Schnauzy saved my life that day as far as I'm concerned. Schnauzy was a good dog. She was a great dog.
Y como de costumbre, siempre pregunto por recomendaciones de canciones para añadir a mi playlist y Lala me recomendó Historia de un amor y Pink Shoelaces.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Anytime somebody decides to spotlight the diner and myself and yours truly, it really is such an honor. I really, really thank you. Muchísimas gracias. I really appreciate it. Thank you, honey. See you soon. Come by the diner anytime.
Esto es el final. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. No olvides visitar a Lala en sus directos.
Recuerda que el mundo virtual nunca duerme y lights out.